Welcome to IPD's Tech Session. Today we'll be going over how to replace the timing belt in what Volvo calls their white engines. This applies to almost all the 850s, and although there are two different part numbers for yours, installation for both are the same. We'll start by taking off the front cover.
First step is to take off the 10mm on the front timing cover. Put the cover straight up and out to remove it.
Notice the two cam alignment marks and the corresponding notches in the upper timing cover. Be sure to rotate the motor over until these line up before any further disassembly. The next step is to remove the crankshaft pulley. Start with the 30mm center nut and then remove the four surrounding 10mm bolts. An impact socket and driver may be necessary to remove the nut. It's on pretty tight.
You'll need a pry bar and a little bit of pressure to remove the crankshaft pulley.
At this point, we need to line up the marks on the crankshaft. Note the mark on the housing itself and the corresponding one on the end of the crank. The camera's offset at a slight angle to see these, but while you look at it, they should be straight up.
Be sure to check your cam marks and your crank marks that they're all still in alignment. It's very important during this part of the procedure not to let anything move during disassembly. Let's continue by removing the tensioner. Now remove the top engine cover and the top cam cover.
In order to get the belt out from underneath the lower crank pulley, you'll have to remove the lower crank cover and the two 10mm nuts holding it in place. And take the belt off of the vehicle. The engine water pump, located off of the timing drive, may need replacement if it's been a large period of miles since your last one. Consider replacing it at this time, as it isn't very much extra labor. Routing the new belt, start at the crankshaft, go to the intake cam, and then the exhaust cam. With the belt installed, reinstall the top cam cover and check it once again to make sure the cam marks are still lined up. Also at this time, make sure that the crankshaft is still lined up. To compress the tensioner, you'll need a vise to do this. About a half to a quarter of a turn every 10 to 30 seconds or so seems to be about right. Continue compressing it until the holes line up and a retention pin can be installed. A steel drift out of a steel rivet works well for this. Install the pin into the retention holes once they're properly lined up. With the tension pin installed, be sure to replace the white plastic buffer if your vehicle has one.
Reinstall the tensioner with the two 12mm bolts. Use diagonal cutters to remove the pin and release the tension from the tensioner. Remove the top timing cover and check the belt for any slack. Now reinstall the lower crank cover and its two 10mm bolts. Reinstall the crank pulley, noting the index hole in the pulley. Match it with the index pin in the crank. You may have to tap it in a little for it to fully seat. Now reinstall the front timing cover and the 10mm bolt that holds it in place. Manually rotate the engine through 2 complete revolutions using a ratchet. Do not use the starter of the vehicle to rotate it through. By rotating the engine through in this way, we verify that the pistons and valves are not making contact and that we have installed the belt properly. If you do encounter interference, stop immediately and rotate the engine backward past the original timing marks, then clockwise again to line them up. Recheck all of your settings, make sure that everything is correct. This job is definitely a skill level 3. So if you have any questions about it, be sure to consult a qualified mechanic who can help you. And thanks for joining us on this IPD Tech session.